Well, kia ora everyone, good afternoon. My name is Duncan Sandeman and I'm the Duty Civil Defence Controller for Christchurch City at this stage of the emergency. I'm very lucky today to be joined by the Honourable Mark Mitchell, the Minister, Dr Vanessa Wienick, the local MP for Banks Peninsula, and Mayor Phil. What we'll do is I will shortly hand over to the Minister for him to make some remarks. The Mayor will then make some remarks and then I will conclude with a operational update and then we'll open the floor for some questions. Minister.
Yeah, thanks Duncan. Thanks everyone for being here. Look, you would have seen over the last sort of 10 days we've been tracking a weather front that has come down across the North Island and then of course headed here to the South Island over the last 48 hours. That has impacted heavily Little River, a community that I've been up into today with the Mayor and that I visited there last May. They have been hit much harder this time, without a doubt. More severe flooding that has had a serious impact on businesses and of course residents and the rural and the farmers as well. There are stock losses there and there's issues around feed. I just want to acknowledge the community up there. They are out now working hard, supported by our first responders, and a huge shout out to the local volunteer fire brigade up there who without a doubt responded to their community. They were having to provide safe haven at the station whilst at the same time get out on the ground and do the work that they do. And in typical fashion, our FENS and police leaders are off to the side and avoiding the cameras, but I just want to acknowledge you and your teams, police as well. We had one of the sergeants that was trying to get up there to provide support to our lone police officer in Little River, and the farmers came to his aid because he couldn't get through the floodwaters to actually get him there. So I want to acknowledge the outstanding work of our first responders, as always, in responding to these events. The infrastructure is a big focus, obviously with multiple slips and getting those roads open. The good news is, I think, Duncan, you were saying that that Highway 57 is just 75, is just reopened, which means that people trapped in the Akaroa area now have got movement. The Wainui are working hard on that. They haven't got that road open yet, but I want to acknowledge all of our contractors who are often the unsung heroes in events like this. They've been out on the roads working very hard to try and get those slips open and get that infrastructure back up and running. So without a doubt the area has been hit hard, but there has been again an outstanding response from the Mayor, from the controllers, the CDM, our EOC personnel, our first responders, and of course community who always step forward in situations like this. With that, I will pass over to the Mayor for some comments.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Minister. One of the things people ask me is why did we do a state of emergency? One of the main things was communications. That's probably still a bit of a struggle. It's coming right. We're putting some Starlink things in. Water at Wainui, total loss of the water system there. So staff are over there putting in tanks and making, because they're the important things. We've got to look after the people. What else do we have apart from comms is power. There was 222 houses that didn't have power. People are now working on that flat out. I went over to Little River yesterday. I got as far as Little River and couldn't go any further because the water was so deep. We went over there today on the main road, not a sign of any water. There's a lot of water in the paddocks, but it has subsided remarkably. One of the things that I see the difference, like driving around there, you look at, you get to Tai Tap and that, you go, oh, it's just a bit of a damp day, it's nothing different. You get round to Little River and the damage is a lot, and I'm sure if we'd gone to Wainui it would even be more. And that's not taking away from smaller bays out on the peninsula, the ones that you don't see from the main road. They'll be struggling as well, so we've got to give them as much assistance. But looking at it today and looking at overhead aerial photographs of the ground and the layout, there's a kind of river that runs from the foothills to the lake, and in my view It's too windy, it's too narrow. We need to have a plan to open it up, and I've talked to the local, Lynn Leslie, the local community board chair, and the head of the group that works on it. We need to look at how we can have a diversion of some sort so that when the little river gets inundated or overflowing, it's got somewhere else to go rather than down the middle of the main drag. So we can do that. The height of the lake has not a lot to do with that part because there was so much water going down the main drag, and I think that we can work hard on getting that done because we certainly don't want to be standing here in the next 8 months doing the same thing. Is that enough?
Right, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I'd like to do now is just cover off a couple of operational matters of where we're at. So, as the Minister just mentioned, NZTA have just advised that State Highway 75 has reopened to the public. It is 2 lanes for most of it, but there are some places that are still down to a single lane and under traffic control. But it's great news that lifeline has reopened. On the communications front, the comms across Banks Peninsula still remain patchy. Cell phone communication is available in Akaroa, particularly 2 Degrees who are doing the 111 calls, but also One New Zealand has now also been able to establish text messaging in Akaroa, but we're asking local folk there to please use it sparingly and not overload the network. The internet communications to Akaroa and Banks Peninsula are still out. That is due to damage to the fibre optic cable. There are technicians that are deployed forward right now who are doing diagnostics to identify where the breaks in those cables are and where they can be, where effort needs to go to fix them. In the meantime, we have deployed a Starlink system to the Gaiety Hall in Akaroa, which is available for use by the public. That works much like a Wi-Fi system would work, where you go in and hook onto it, and then you can have connectivity. Again, we would ask that is used for essential administration, connecting with family, friends and whānau, but not used for streaming movies and the like. And finally, I'd like to talk about the water supply. As already mentioned by the Mayor, the water supply in Wainui remains off due to an issue between the reservoir and home tanks. Little River and Wainui still retain a boil water notice in those areas, and that remains in place. I'd like to join the Minister and the Mayor in giving a shout out to the local communities for looking after one another, and I encourage that to continue. It is in moments like this that really makes a difference. So thank you for that. I'd now like to invite questions either to me or to the Minister and the Mayor.
How many homes are you aware of being flooded? Have any been yellow or red stickered?
At this stage, to the best of my knowledge, there has been no placarding at this time. There is a limited number of homes that have been flooded. We are still in the discovery phase of that.
What were you aware of? Are we still in single digits?
Yeah, still in single digits.
Will a government relief fund be put in place?
So the Mayoral Relief Fund obviously is available to the Mayor, and that's for immediate short-term needs, and yes, if they feel like they need that access to that fund, it's on standby.
Minister, Mayor, you have visited Little River. What were the residents saying to you while you were there?
Well, it's the business owners, of course. It's our summer. Unfortunately, our summer falls in cyclone season. But for them, this is where economically it's important for them. So they're pretty devastated by the flooding. There's a lot of work going on right now to try and clean up the damage from the flooding and get reinstated and get that business up and running again. But of course, they take a big psychological hit. But I have to say, they are really resilient. They are actually very positive. and there's a lot of work and activity going on over there at the moment to get them back up and running again.
Is there any affected areas you haven't reached yet?
Well, me personally, I've only been into Little River, but I think that the mayor yesterday was.
I only got as far as Little River yesterday, but I might be going for a wee drive this afternoon now that the road's open to get over the other side, because you can't beat seeing it in your own eyes and talking to people face to face.
Yeah,
You've spoken about the need for some sort of diversion channel for the river. What about the pump and barge project for Lake Forsyth?
Very good question. After the last event,
Sorry.
After the last event, local iwi and Runanga got together with us and came and supplied, this is what we'd like to do with a couple of great big pipes that go out to sea. That is in the final design stage now, and it's getting costed, I think, and we will be working really with them to do that, because then we can play with the lake level without having to worry about going over with diggers and that. Oh, is it too late? Is it going to cost too much? If these pipes are in, it doesn't really matter what it costs. Just get them in so that we can start playing with the lake level and keeping control of it.
This is a question asked in May, but I think it still stands now. Why was the lake not open to the sea ahead of the forecast rain?
A good question. The lake level was actually very low. After we had the last event, the lake trigger level was taken from 2.6, 2.7 down to 2.3. And it was below that level when things started to happen. And it went from there to up in 36 hours. No one has seen rain like that there. And that's what I say. The river, it wouldn't have mattered what level the lake was, the river, getting it to the lake was the bottleneck. And that's why all of up in Little River Township got flooded.
But it eventually got to 4.4, almost double that allowed level.
That's right, and then it the higher level is not 3.9 or whatever it is. It's not 2. The higher level is that, and that's when you can dig it off. And the digger was out there yesterday at 1 o'clock, and it did it, and it was opened. 1 o'clock was opened about 2.5, 3 hours, and it was opened.
But again, coming back to the idea of opening it before the weather hits, is this a case of being caught on the hop with how much rain came down in that short run?
It is, and you're dead right. You can look at that rain coming down the country and go, this is bad, this is bad. It wasn't actually, it hadn't got to the lowest, it was below the lowest level that you could open it anyway, and it's only a matter of about 24 hours went from that to up there, and that's when we had the digger there. It went higher after, but it's, the digger dug it out.
Do you feel the council in general was prepared for this weather event?
Oh, I think so. Well, we've got the Lake Advisory Board, which is a local community board, and a good number of other people, and they work really closely with iwi and everyone to make sure that it's done properly, and they were more than happy with what it was. It was just the amount of water that came down. Around
the Heathcote River, though, what about things like sandbags, availability of those? When I went and visited people there yesterday, they haven't seen anyone from the council.
Mm-hmm. What we've got with the Heathcote River, that's a bit different. We've got all those the lots and lots of money we have spent on retention basins in the top. If we hadn't done that, the Heathcote would have been underwater and everywhere. I'm not that worried that, and I'm sure, I'm not that worried that roads get flooded, because as you'll see now, the water's gone, the tide's come in, gone out, it's all gone. I don't want to see houses getting inundated, and I haven't heard of any of that happening yet, but it's not so it won't happen.
It wasn't just roads that were flooded, it was cars as well.
Mm-hmm. Cars and people's driveways, but there's only so much we can do. We've got all of these stormwater basins. We've got them on the Adventure Park, we've got them Sparks Road, Henderson's Basin, around in Rosendale. They are chocker. They did their job, they're letting the water out, and you can only hold so much back. Do we need to make bigger ones? How long is a piece of string? So how much rain do we get? So we did the best we could with those. Everything that we had designed was full to capacity.
But residents there and residents in Little River say these flooding events are getting worse. Do you accept that, or do you dispute the... I think the climate is getting worse. It seems to be that we're having a 10-year rain event every 3 years or 2 years or whatever, so we've got to be starting to be ready for this, and that's why I'm keen on getting this diversion channel dug in the
farmers' land right next to the main road to bypass so it goes to the lake without ruining the road and people's livelihoods.
Why are we doing it after the fact? Were there any plans in place prior, or anything that we'd looked at as a council?
We had looked at this mechanical system to get the pipe out, and as I say, that was being designed. It's in detailed design now, and we'll find out how much that is, and I want that in as fast as we possibly can.
So where are we falling down? Because the first residents knew that there was going to be a problem was when the road was already flooded and it was coming up through the drains rather than the river breaking its banks.
No, I would say it wouldn't be coming up through the drains. It would be coming down from up by the tennis courts at Little River and not getting under the road there, and it's flowing down the road.
This is in the Heathcote area.
All right.
I'm just saying, where are we going wrong? Because people weren't prepared for this. Mm-hmm. Did they miss the message? Was the message not put out?
No, I don't think. Well, we didn't know how much water was coming down, and we're sitting there going, "Oh, our retention basins have been designed. They've worked once last time. Why wouldn't they work again? Maybe they're not big enough. Maybe we had to have more of them. If these rain events are coming more and harder and faster, we maybe need to look at that as well. Don't forget that down by the bottom of the Heathcote and the Avon River, after the earthquake, a lot of the ground is a lot lower than it used to be. Places that might have used to flood once every 18 months now do it quite often because the ground is lower. The tide doesn't know any difference, it just keeps coming in and out. But that's what we need to probably look at.
Was there any sandbag availability?
I'm not sure.
Duncan, do you have any update on the school kids stuck in Wainui?
They're still there. They're safe and sound in the camp and being well looked after. As soon as we can get that road, the Wainui Road, to the state highway open, we want to get those kids out and home.
Will any support be given to the teachers?
If that is required, we'll look at it, but we're not aware at the moment that there is any support required, but it's certainly a situation that we're monitoring.
Do you know if there was any sandbag availability?
No, I don't know of any sandbag availability.
What kind of infrastructure has been impacted by this event?
So NZTA advises us that there is no significant damage to any of the significant structures on State Highway 75.
What's a significant structure?
Well, bridges, culverts, that kind of stuff. However, it's clear that there is significant damage to the overall roading network on the peninsula that will take time to completely remediate.
And how many, does it mean like multiple homes are cut off from being able to access their way around? Like
we are currently undergoing a survey of that right now to identify if there are people in communities that are cut off, and if there are, we are then working through how we will support those communities.
And what was the status of medically vulnerable people over in Akaroa and Little River? Did we know how they were doing? Did anyone get evacuated?
No one was evacuated, but we are monitoring that situation, and there is a Starlink unit set up at the both in Little River and at the medical centre in Akaroa. So if the need did arise for an evacuation or a urgent resupply of some form of medication, then we would look at actioning that.
And what kind of communications have we had with Wairua, Unuku, Rapaki, Kokororata about their status?
So there is some communication with that, but as I've already mentioned, it's extremely patchy across the peninsula. We've had an aerial reconnaissance that's been conducted as well, just to identify to see if there is any houses or communities that have been seriously affected or damaged by particularly land subsidence. So that still remains our key priority, is the safety of people, secondly property, from land movement.
Was there any conversation about bringing in the NH90s or the Army to come and assist? So
Defence has remained available to us if we required. We had a Defence Force liaison officer in the EOC yesterday, but we have stood them down, but they are still defence is available should we need it. But at this stage we have not assessed that's required.
And nationally this summer's been pretty rough for all of New Zealand. I'm sure there'll be a lot of money that needs to be forked out. How is the government going to cope, or what are they going to do to come in and aid?
Yeah, so for me, initially it's finding what are the immediate needs, temporary housing, and then and those types of things, and then of course doing a full assessment and evaluation in terms of what support the individual communities need from central government, and that is exactly what we're doing. So, we've got a massive recovery operation going on in parts of the South Island too, with the weather events that we had a couple of months ago, and of course up in the North Island with the weather event that's just come through.
Minister, this is the third or fourth time in the past 9 months that you're still in this room following a weather event that's brought threats to lives and livelihoods. Your government has scrapped the Climate Resilience Fund, the Clean Car Discount, the oil and gas ban, the Lake Onslow pumped hydro battery, and now intend to pump fossil fuel produced energy into the grid in dry years. In light of all of this, how do you defend that climate record?
Well, with number one, we've got a big program in government in terms of both meeting our climate obligations and also adaptation. And there's been an enormous billions of dollars poured into mitigation and reduction work right around the country in terms of protecting communities from these type of events. Yes, you're right. We do get hit regularly with these weather events. That's pretty consistent as the incoming minister. The briefing that I received is that be ready to deal with a lot of weather events. We're a country that has got two major fault lines through it. We're coastal, so we're exposed to tsunamis. We have volcanoes, and we have regular weather events. So, but one thing I would say is that actually as a country, we're getting pretty good at identifying the risk, being ready, responding and recovering from that. In terms of the broader climate issues that you raise, that's a global issue. That's there's plenty of much bigger industrial countries around the world that are making a contribution or that are contributing to that climate change argument, but it's incumbent upon us as a country to be sensitive to that, to be responsible around it. We do have climate targets, and we are doing a significant amount of work in government around adaptation as well. And I agree with you, we do keep getting hit with these events, and there is improvement. You asked about the management of the river mouth. I was at Selwyn recently, where there was questions brought forward by the community that were very genuine and legitimate around the management of those river mouths. And I sent a letter out to all the councils to make sure and to reinforce the fact, what is your plan in terms of dealing with these river mouths? This is one of the issues that was brought forward by the community out at Little River, and it's something that I know that the council will be doing an after-action review, and they should be looking at everything, and that's something that I'm interested as well in terms of looking for constant improvement as a country in the way that we deal with these events.
So what kind of timeframe is that, though?
Well, the council will be working on that right now in terms of after-action reviews and looking exactly timelines and decisions and issues around that. That's common practice for every event that happens around the country. And for me, what's critically important and why I get on the ground is so that I can have a clear understanding of what has gone right and what has gone wrong, and how we can continue to make improvements.
Because for Akaroa and Little River, they'd say they probably have 3 months left until May hits, which is when our last weather event happened.
Well, I think there's things that can be done immediately around mitigation. I mean, you've raised the fact of sandbags. Sandbags can be very effective in terms of mitigation. There's other tools now have just come from Waira, where they have got big bags that they can actually inflate, which they deployed, which can be used. So that's what I'm talking about, continual improvement and looking at those issues. The other thing that's really important with emergency management in New Zealand, I talk about this regularly, is that it's a whole of society response is the best response. And so, if there's bad weather coming and it's signalled, then actually look and see personally what you can do in terms of mitigation. Can you get out and actually clear some of your own drains? Have you got a grab bag ready to go? Engage your own danger sense. If you don't feel safe somewhere, make an early decision and get out, especially before it becomes dark, because once it's dark and then first responders are responding, then there's risk to everyone involved. So floodwaters, stay out of floodwaters. They're dangerous. We lose people in floodwaters. So, there's a lot. We've come a long way. We're always looking for constant improvement, but like I said, the best response to these events for us as a country is a whole of society response.
But you accept they're becoming more frequent and they're going to become more severe?
Well, I'd have to go back and check their frequency, but I know I can tell you that since I've been minister, I think I'm up to about 27 or 28 local states of emergency that I've been to. And like I said, I received Sir Jerry Mataparai's report after Cyclone Gabriel. The system has not waited. We quite simply are in a very strong position. We've got mayors that now make very early decisions. We've got very good, strong CDM groups, highly professionalised, focused on plans and the leadership that we need. We've got world-class first responders that are out there, and then the communities do respond, whether it be iwi and hapu, who are very good at emergency management, whether it be our rural groups and rural trusts, who are also very good, or our community pop-ups. And like I said to you, our contracting companies and civil companies, they're outstanding in the work they do. So we're in a really good space in terms of being able to deal with these events, but like I said, we're always looking for constant improvement.
What will CCC do in the next 3 months to try and mitigate?
Sorry?
So in May last year they had the big storm, big flood, and there was a lot of issues. We've got 3 months until May comes. What will CCC be doing?
I want to get that, it won't get in, I want to get that pipe consented and ready to go, but I really want to do some work, and I don't want to keep pushing on it. In my view, it wouldn't have mattered if the lake was, I wouldn't say empty, but way down. It is getting the water from the foothills to the lake that causes this problem. And I want to see a diversion, just a swale. You can still have it in the paddock and the cows can walk through it and everything like that, but when the water comes up, it can go somewhere else than down through people's houses. That's what I want to get underway and sort of designed. It's just mechanical. It just levels, and water has been flowing downhill for years.
And on that, we'll draw it to a close. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for being here today. Thank you, Minister, for coming down and spending time. Vanessa, great to see you too. Mr Mayor, and thanks everyone for being here today. Kia ora.
Thank you, Doug.